Mic, check. Checking the mic. Hopefully the audio's okay. Can I still do the streaming thing? Let's see. All right, hopefully everything should be live. I've made quite a few changes to my stream, including figuring out how I could use my DJI gimbal to follow me around on the stream a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of cool, I guess. It's new, a little bit different. I've tried to improve the stream quality, played around with some stuff. Let me know if you guys can hear me reasonably well. Yeah, the chats aren't coming up in my stream, in my OBS. I need to figure out why that is. But yeah, the camera should follow me around until it gets a little messed up. It's not the best in terms of tracking. If you guys can hear me, please let me know. But today we're going to be unboxing some stuff. Mic sounds good, a bit muffled, but I can hear you. Let me see, I've got the DJI mic I've been using for streams. You can hear now? Okay. Well, what is up? Welcome back to the stream. It's been a little while. Looking to get back into things. Of course, we're going to be building a new V0. Quickly, I wanted to get you guys caught up on just what I've been getting into. A little bit of a catch up on some stuff from Earth/3D Printopia. Picked up some stuff, a lot of stuff from KB3D, including this shirt. We got one of these little TS101 soldering irons. So I might end up putting this on to my heat press VLMP. But yeah, that's a little cool. Can run off USB-C. I probably need a power brick that can power that, or it can run off a barrel jack. So nice and light, and I'll probably be using it to solder on stream from now on. And I'm gonna have to pop out the chat because I can't see you guys. I don't know what's that. I added this extension to OBS that's supposed to let me see the chat, and it's not working. Might be noise cancellation being a bit weird, but it's fine. I do have the noise cancellation on. I can turn up the gain a little bit. Yeah, let's see how well. I got the speed turned down a little bit. Other stuff, picked up some CNC kitchen inserts. Oh, that is really blown out. The camera above here, let's see if we can turn that down a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. Got some CNC kitchen inserts. So I got like M3, M4, M5, and I got some like tall ones and short ones, so should be good on heat set inserts for projects. All the Voron kits should have them included. A little bit quiet, but nice and clear. I can turn up the gain. Let's see if I can do that without breaking the screen. Rolling the dice here. Turn it up a little bit. Let me know if that's any clearer. I can also, I've got like 3 ways to turn up the volume. Is that any clearer? But in the chat, we've got Happy Manufacturing. Hello. Bill Brothers. Rinovic. B Cuddy. Better 3D Print SOS. Welcome everybody to the chat. Continuing on, picked up some fans from West 3D. So these are their vendor fans. They're like Winder, but they're, or Berserker, something like that. So these are supposed to be pretty quiet and blow a lot of air. So the next time I make some kind of a tool hot end or tool head, I'm going to be using these heat shrink inserts from KB3D. Much better. Okay, good to know. Good to know. So now I can kind of see your messages coming, but they're not coming in. It's not every message. I gotta figure that out. The other thing is I got a bit of the Fysetc new filament that they produce. So this is their ABS glass filled. I've been printing with this like all day. I've already gone through an entire spool of this stuff, printing a lot of kind of camera gear type stuff. I really love the finish on this. Let me see if this camera can show that off pretty well. But just the cool glass filled finish, it almost looks like it's a injection molded part, which I'm really liking. Gone through a whole spool of that and been printing tools with it. So this is a oil filter socket because I lost my real tool that did this. So I just found one on Thingiverse, printed it out and was able to do my oil change. But I like the feel of it. It feels, I don't know, just a little bit different to ABS. The layer adhesion is great. I've been printing a lot of camera gear stuff with it too. So, yep. I love the Fysetc. I've got some of the carbon fiber PLA over there, and it's running on the Prusa, like silk, and this stuff has been flying out of my Voron. Like everything I've been printing with this stuff. So really liking it. Props to Mark for coming out with a good material. I'm sure some of the glass filled ABS and other materials from Polymaker and other companies are pretty good, but yeah, this is the first stuff I've tried that's glass filled, and it's great. What color combo for this build? We are going with Polymaker again, and let's see, top down. So we've got some of their just kind of plain gray with some black accent colors, some galaxy gray accent colors, and then the big accent color is going to be this green. You guys can see that. So the color scheme is kind of based off the character Genji from Overwatch, if you guys have ever played that game. His original skin was kind of gray, black, and green. I was kind of looking for another theme and decided to go with that. Camera angles of fire, thank you. So we've got like a new camera. I can actually swing and move this camera around a little bit easier, so I can get some close-ups on the build and as I'm unboxing stuff. So hopefully that's nice and adds a little bit of production value. Got the overhead, of course, and then my face, which it'll probably be on me the least. Yeah, so that's one problem with the follow, is sometimes it doesn't kind of keep me where I want it. So I've got to like turn off the tracking, recenter it manually. We'll probably leave that off, but honestly, I won't have it on my face all that much in general. So is that pop green? Where are my filament boxes? This is actually ASA, and I just untangled it a little bit, which is not good. But this is, what does it say the color? Did not say that on the label? Yeah, it's pop green. Good, well spotted. Who is that? Cheesy potato, nice. Yeah, so it's a nice pop, like neonish kind of green. I saw it, and honestly, this is kind of the color that was the inspiration for what I wanted to do with the build. Some other stuff I picked up, Polymaker, I got this guy. This is their like V2 orbiter kind of extruder, and this thing is a nice chunk of an extruder. I love this spring load mechanism that they have. It's got the load and unload filament buttons, so you can set it up with macros. So it looks like it's got a little tail that comes out for the loader and one that comes out for the extruder motor. It's a lot of metal construction, which is pretty cool and pretty nice. So we got to find a project on this. I need some bigger printers, I feel like a Trident or something for an extruder like this to go into. What else did I pick up? I got some Precut. So Precut has ABS now, and a couple people have been using them for Voron builds. So I picked up a couple colors. Where does it say the actual? It's Pixie Dust and Dark Magic. I'm not sure how well that shows up on camera, but I haven't used any of their in their filament at all yet. And I don't know, maybe if I get another V0 build, we'll do a V0 with these colors. Makes the color scheme pretty easy. I used the green accent in the Milo. Yeah, I think it's a good color for an accent color. That extruder is awesome, really powerful. I forget how many Newton meters Mark said it can do, but it's pretty crazy, crazy powerful. Has anyone tried color path ABS? I can't say I have. If anybody has, let me know. Last couple things. Got some of the LDO filament. These were at the Fabrico table, and Hector hooked me up with a couple of those, so definitely want to try those out. Maybe if I build the stealth press, I've been thinking about building one of those. Maybe I can do it in these two colors. Looks like we've got the lemon lime, the LDO blue. LDO blue is classic. And then I think that's about it. Yeah, I'm gonna get this giant wrench out of the way. I did grab this guy. This is the Fysetc 1515 extrusion alignment tool. So hopefully this will help with the build a little bit. Having problems orienting things. But yeah, you can use this to align your blind joints. And instead of kind of clamping it down on three sides awkwardly, you can kind of just stick them in here. Then it's got a hole for the screwdriver. So they sell this on AliExpress and on their website. So I figured I'd give it a try. It's like 15 bucks. And they make one for 2020 extrusion too, if you're building a Trident or anything that uses 2020. Renovic said, Makerspace had it, and since none of the printers in the Makerspace can print ABS anymore, I was able to take it. Nice. You got any plans for it? Any specific stuff you want to build? This camera's looking a little foggy. I might have to get a LUT for it. Maybe it's the lens. I am in love with my Fysetc CNC V0 bed mount. Installing one now. Okay. Well, we're going to dig into this in just 1 second. Hopefully everybody who's going to show up is in the chat. Welcome. Thank you guys for turning in and turning out. And yeah, I guess we can kind of start to dig into the box. So as far as I know, this is the R1 Pro 1.1 kit that they offer. And yeah, I'm excited to dig in. So Feder has built this. Or a version of this kit, an older revision, I believe, and then updated it a few times. And of course, Steve Builds is also building one on his chat. We're not going to get as far as he did. Steve, in his first stream, I think it was like a 4-hour stream with his buddy, they got like half the dang printer built. They got to the bed, I think they got the printer belted and the AB, AB motors and all that kind of stuff done. It's going to be a little bit slower. But, you know, this will be my third V0. Hopefully it goes reasonably fast. So I picked up some LDO filament at Orange County Maker Fair. Prints really nice for me. Okay, cool. I'm going to try it out. I've been printing all that Polymaker Cyratech. They have some filament that's labeled Polymaker or Peopoly. Sorry. Peopoly is very different than Polymaker. They have some of their filament is labeled Peopoly and some of it is labeled Cyratech. I'm not really sure what the differentiator is there. But yeah. Oh yeah, man, let's hammer down and check this thing out. Cool. I'm gonna start recording on my Atomos recorders, so I have these for prosperity's sake. Hopefully I can record the whole thing, and yeah, like you said, it's digging hard to keep up with Steve. I'm deciding between using it and some Hatchbox ABS for your primary color for your ender conversion. Unlike previous times that I was saying I'm going to convert the printer, I'm actually bought the parts. So I still have a whole box full of ender wire parts that I need to start getting built. So don't feel too bad for not having started building it yet. But yeah, I've got the camera recording, and let's dig into it. I've got my jerry rig, everything nice from LTT. Got my LTT screwdriver, LTT water bottle. I just maybe I need to buy a mouse mat, but let's get into this kit. Feder, I'm definitely interested to hear what you think of any differences that might have popped up. I know you gave them some feedback, and they've definitely put out multiple revisions of this printer, so it'll be interesting to see if they've taken any of that feedback to heart. So, looks pretty well packed. You got some high density toe cell foam, it looks like. You protect everything. Hopefully everything's in nice order. It's not an ender wire, it's a Trident conversion. I have a lot of extra 2020 extrusion. Yeah, for sure they've changed a few things. Excited to see them, especially the boards. Got your LTT precision bit driver? I don't have one, David. I need to pick one up. Tim, what's up, man? Nice to see you in chat. You guys were live streaming earlier, right? You and Tor, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, first thing I noticed is that they have some actual physical documentation and a printed out wiring guide. Whether or not this is up to date with what's actually comes in the kit, we'll find out. But I do like that they have this. I made a wiring guide for the FormBot kit because there was none provided, so I really like to see that. Yeah, we were on our weekly stream. Well, thanks for hopping in here. I'm not sure if you've built a Voron yet. I know that you guys were talking about it. I know Tor definitely has, but yeah, I know you've started to get into Clipper a whole lot more. I've used your Marlin unified Marlin firmware configurator a whole lot, but most of my printers are on Clipper now. Yeah, so we've got the physical printed wiring kits. Hopefully it is up to spec and actually accurate. We've got a thank you card. I can zoom into some of this stuff if you need me to. Let's see, the bearing and the precision screwdriver is so nice. My friend got one and they're the best fidget toy. My MKBHD was talking about that as well. You can just like spin it all day long. Some stickers, so I guess spiders. I don't know what Fysetc exactly means, and I hope I'm saying it right, Fysetc. But it seems like they have a lot to do with spiders and a lot of their stuff. I think one of the names of their boards is Spider. If anybody knows, A, am I saying Fysetc right? Because I've heard it said like 7 different ways. And then B, if what's up with the spiders? All right, where do we start? First box looks like a power supply. And we've got the LRS-150-24, which is 2 spec. That's exactly what the Voron spec calls for. Pretty standard fare if they're not putting in a anything extra. I'm not sure that they need any extra overhead. So we'll have to see they're using actual Meanwell for that. It's exactly what came in the FormBot kit. So this will be my 3rd V0. Hey Moji, nice to see you. This will be my 3rd V0. We started out with the FormBot kit. I did CPIP for that, so the what do you call it, commercial pith from Fabrico to print those parts. And then I printed the parts for the Voron kit, which I did a review of on the the LDO kit I printed on the Voron, and then now this Fysetc kit I've printed on the LDO kit. So we're just kind of chugging down the line, printing Vorons on Vorons the way it's supposed to be. This feels pretty heavy and substantial. They made a spider board that had 8 drivers, like 8 legs on a spider. If it's their alternative to the octopus, gotcha. Hello, I haven't seen many of your videos, which is really exciting. Been looking forward, looking into this kit exactly. My biggest decision is whether to print parts myself or my interclone. Rep wrap for life, that's right. Printing printers on printers. That's honestly kind of the majority of what I print these days is just parts for new printers and parts for streaming setups and stuff like that. But for Fabrizio, hopefully you'll get a good idea about what's in this kit and the merits of it, and I can kind of provide some context about like this kit versus some of the other ones I've built. And then Feder has a whole series on this printer, and Steve Builds is also building it. But I've been looking to this kit. My biggest decision is whether to print the parts on my interclone. Thoughts? I guess it depends on the quality of your printed parts. The CPIF and PIF programs are about 115, 120 bucks for a set of printed parts. So, you know, you consider buying a couple spools of filaments, the time spent, you know, it's kind of hard to decide. According to Steve Builds, Fysetc isn't pronounced by Western speakers. Hopefully the kit is good. I've never had luck with Fysetc. Yeah, so they provide a lot of parts or sell a lot of kind of rep wrap-ish parts on Amazon. That's where I first kind of started to see them pop up. Next up, we've got the CNC Bed. Somebody was just mentioning that. So it's a big chunkin' heavy piece of CNC'd aluminum, I presume. Feels really, really sturdy. You know, we went from the 3 pieces of extrusion on the traditional kind of spec bed, and then the Kirigami bed came out, which is folded stamped steel, and then they've come out with this, they just hogged out some aluminum essentially. So in terms of stiffness, this should be absolutely the stiffest. And yeah, it's interesting that Fysetc has started to produce kind of their own design parts and things like that. Better said, that's my favorite part. That bed mount is great. And then you guys are talking to Fabrizio about printing ABS. Yes, I've printed some of my Underwire parts on a Prusa and a foam core DIY enclosure, so it's possible. But you know, it's kind of like up to you what kind of quality you want to get and expect. I mean, you can always print it on your Ender, get the printer up and running, reprint the parts and rebuild it. That's honestly kind of a common thing. Looks like we've got some Wagos in here. Zoom in a bit. But we've got a little PCB probably for the thermistor, which is similar to what the LDO kit provided. We've got 2 Wago connectors, hopefully legitimate Wagos, and then some hardware and a couple of heatset inserts. Then we've got some JSTs with crimps. It's interesting those aren't pre-crimps for you. Or maybe they're extras, I'm not sure. Some pre-crimped and pre-cut wires. The heated bed positive connector looks like it's got a ferrule on one side and a spade connector on the other. We've got a thermal fuse with a connector on it. So it's not already pre-built like the LDO kit, but at least they kind of put a quick disconnect connector on there for you so you can put it in series. You've got the heated bed, typical fare. I know that they've been selling these for a while. Oh, we got a super chat for the filament fun or energy drinks you picked. Thank you, appreciate that, Tim. I missed it in the my little chat ninja thing, or else I would bring it up. That's the 5th super chat I've gotten in the live stream, so thanks, Tim. Tim and I met at, I think, Maker Faire 2017 in New York, and then at Earths, and then at Murph's, and we played Super Smash Brothers at Murph. Oh, Phil Brothers with 10 gifted subs. Thank you so much. That is absolutely great. A lot of people getting gifted subs. Samuel, the Reverend, Modern Magician, Danny Turner, Jornar, hopefully I said that right, Rafa, Actual CT, and LCO Motors was gifted a membership by Bo Brothers. Hello, Jason. I was just talking about the LEO filament that I was able to pick up at Murph. Let's see, yeah, it was New York Maker Faire and then mini Murphs, yep. Thanks for becoming a member, Rafa. Appreciate it. And thanks again to Bill and to Tim for supporting the stream. It's really motivating to have people donate and give away and show that they're enjoying and helping other folks enjoy the stream as well. We've got our magnetic build plates. Again, this is something that they've been selling on Amazon for a lot of different printers for quite a while. One thing I'm really excited about is the bed alignment screws. I don't know if really excited is the right word for it, but it's something I noted that I would like to see on most printers going forward. The Prusa MK3 and several of the MKs have had it on there for a while. We're starting to see it on a lot of printers. And yeah, it's just nice. On a printed bed this small that gets this hot, and it's just a big honking 100°C chunk of steel, being able to quickly align it and pop it on there and drop it is a nice little feature add. A lot of people are doing these mods, so it's kind of good to see. Tim said, am I going to Rocky Mountain? I'm not sure. I don't have plans to. I would love to go if it's in the kind of cards for me to be able to take off and get there, then I would love to go, but I don't have hard set plans for it yet. But yeah, the bed box. I really like the bed alignment pins. Looks like you just screw in some M3 screws. I know a couple people have done mods where they've drilled and tapped holes in the back and done a screw in the back so you can slide it on there and pop it on there. But I just love to see that. It just makes it really, really easy to get in and out of the bed. So that's everything to do with the bed. Looks like everything is pre-crimped and pre-cut, and we'll have to assemble it. I will have to say that LDO so far for their polyamide bed is the easiest bed building experience. You pretty much have to screw in the thermistor and put on the magnetic bed sheet and you're done. So that's really, really good. We didn't do Murph this year because we had our kid like 1 week before it was happening. Congrats, Tim. I know you guys have a family business, so that's good to see that the family is growing. But bed complete. Next up, kind of the boring part, but they're acrylic enclosure pieces. That knife is nowhere to be seen. Another 2.0 printing press. Yes, this will be the third one. So it's an interesting and unique opportunity to compare the kits. I really liked my FormBot build. It was my first Voron, first Core XY printer. And then the LDO build was really, really fun. I like the value adds that they provide and just making the build experience a whole lot easier. Their documentation was really, really good. I said all of this in my review. And then Fysetc has their own little angle on it and, do some slightly different things. So it'll be cool to see what they have to offer. I know they have a custom board in this, which would be really, really interesting. Super chat from Printing Press 3D. Can't stick around for long. Have a great weekend and fun with the kit. I will definitely do that. Rafa said, now you only need to build a sideboard V0 to complete the set. Yeah, there's kind of 4 major manufacturers. I guess maybe Blue Rolls has a kit, but sometimes they don't seem like they're very available. But there's 4 main kits that people are always trying to kind of decide which ones they want. It's perfectly normal to own 3 V0s. Yeah, I'm moving into Steve territory in terms of number of V0s, I think. I'm not sure how many, I think Modbot just has the 2 or maybe 3. He has a self-source one, an LDO one, and maybe he built a sideboard one. So 3 seems like the magic number. I'm not gonna go through all of these individually. They do have the paper that is a pain in the butt to remove, like all laser cut acrylic. I assume this is, no, this is it, yeah, it's just acrylic. It's not polycarbonate or anything like that. We've got the clear pieces for the panels. We've got the black pieces for the printer decks and stuff like that. We've got the Tophat pieces, the frame part, which you don't end up using on any of the builds I've done so far. And I forget what this part is, the back of the upper part of the printer. So that's kind of boring. I'll spend a whole, hour pulling all of this damn brown paper stuff off of this. It's a pain in the butt, but it's part of the build series. What am I missing in chat? Thanks again for everybody who's sent super chats and gifted subs. Or not sub, what do you call them? Memberships. Perfectly normal to own 3 V0s, hit it with a hairdryer, comes right off. Good to know. I guess, will that make it kind of shrink up? Happy manufacturing? That's a top tip. We'll have to try that. I'll try it on screen when we get to it. So now we're getting into some of the juicy bits. Is there another level under this? No, it looks like it's just this. Extrusions, take a look at these. They look pretty nice. The finish is a little bit matte in comparison to the LDO extrusions. I think their profile is pretty different and unique because I don't think the no-drop nuts work on these. You have to have like custom no-drop nuts for Fysetc extrusions. I really like the LDO extrusion kind of finish. It's got like a little bit of a sparkle to it, and it just kind of breaks up the light, and I feel like you don't notice blemishes and scars or anything like that. I'm guessing that all of these are tapped on both ends of the extrusion, so I'll take some time and make sure I identify all of them. Don't really need to go through every single individual extrusion, but I do want to talk about this guy. So this is their hogged out CNC X gantry extrusion. It is incredibly light. I think they have a spec as to like what the weight of this is, but compared to a typical extrusion, it is so freaking light. No drop nuts won't work. There's a mod in a while, but it's not great. Okay, that's good to know, Rafa. I did see that, and I have it kind of like favorited. Let's zoom in on that a little bit. Hopefully that's in focus. So this is a standard part in their kit, which is pretty unique. You can buy this individually. Oh, this is the wrong one. You can buy this individually. Matter Hackers carry it, Fysetc, AliExpress. I think you can even get them on Amazon. I'll try to have links in the VOD for this, but pretty cool piece, pretty unique. Of course, the weight of your X gantry, it has to move back and forth. So that's one of the things that makes the Y input shaper typically a little bit worse than the X, because the X only has to move the tool head, but the Y has to move the whole gantry assembly. So, oh, forgot to clear that chat. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things about this kit. I think that makes it special is this hogged out super light CNC gantry. I believe it has tapped holes already, so you don't have to use any kind of nut bars or anything like that to screw the extrusion straight down onto it, and then you stick 2 printed pieces in each side of this. Steve already got to this in his build, so if you're interested and can't wait to see kind of how this works and what it's like to build, I'm sure Steve has some impressions in his stream build. But other than that, I'm not going to get too much into the extrusions. They of course probably don't include any extrusions for the bed since they have the CNC bed. But yeah, what do you guys want to see next? Electronics? Let's go with the linear rails. So these are Fysetc branded linear rails. They say don't slide carriage out. They do have rail stops on them so that they don't come out by default. But yeah, these are their own branded, Fysetc branded linear rails. I know that one of them should be a Z1 preload, but I think I recall them saying that maybe all of them are Z1 because I don't see any differentiators on there. You've got 5 of them in the kit, and none of them are called out as like special and need to be used on the X-axis in particular. Is there like a little pencil mark on them? That'll be interesting to know. Are all of these Z1 preload, or is there one that I need to look at for the X gantry? So the preload is basically kind of slide them all quickly. It's fun trying to find the bearings when they all fall out. Yeah, let's not do that. That's one of the things that was the most nervous about building my first Voron was cleaning and greasing the bearings, and I was so worried I was going to have a carriage come off and just have all the bearings fly out, and I was going to have to buy another linear rail. But yeah, after you get used to them, they're not too bad. Foundhammer, welcome to the stream. Thanks for hopping in. If you have any questions about the kit in particular, let me know. Yeah, if anybody knows about the preloads on these, please inform me in the chat. Cable chain, I assume it's a pretty standard cable chain. It's got the one floppy side, so depending on how this goes, it will fall over and look kind of messy, like that, which I hate. So there is a mod that you can replace this part with a different printed part, and it will keep it going straight up and down, if that makes sense. What board and SBC does this come with? Tim, that's a very interesting point. Let's find that, because that's probably the second most special thing about this printer, is it comes with a Fysetc designed board specifically for a V0. So instead of using like a Big Tree Tech SKR Pico, which is the spec from Voron, they've designed their own board, and it's pretty unique. I assume this is it. So here it is. They call it the Catalyst. So it has the, presumably this is some kind of a, I don't know, does anybody know what module this is in terms of the single board compute? But it's kind of like a Big Tree Tech Manta, where it's the main board plus the single board computer all in one. And you can see by the design, like the AB motor drivers, first of all, it has external motor drivers for A, B, and Z, which is pretty unique. Usually you're going to be using the Pico, which has integrated motor drivers, and I guess if those go out, probably doesn't happen all that often, but you know, you're going to have to replace the whole board. With this, you can swap in different motor drivers if you wanted to step up. These are 2209s, and they're their own Fysetc boards. I've bought some of their 2209s and used them on my TiVo Tornado, and they're working pretty well. So I think this is the Catalyst 2.0. Yeah, so up here, it says 2.0 up there. Yeah, it's all Fysetc branded, both the MCU and the compute module. Somebody mentioned it on Steve's stream exactly which one they use for the compute module. I feel like it's probably the same thing that's on like the Big Two Tech Pi and stuff like that. But you can see they put the AV stepper drivers and motor connectors up near where they'll go. So like on the back of a V0, the AV motor drivers are right here and here. So they have a very short run to get there. Instead of running everything down the middle of the printer and then breaking it out where you need it, they designed the board to kind of, you know, you're gonna have a lot of your power coming in here. It's an interesting thought, you know. Originally Vorons are designed to be kind of made from off-the-shelf parts. That's kind of their ethos and their philosophy. But then you have a company like Fysetc coming in and, you know, they know they're going to build a lot of these kits. They design and make their own main board. So they've decided to go with a very custom bespoke board for this. So it's very unique. Obviously nobody else is doing that. Mello provides some boards that people are using in some builds, like the Blue Rose build might use that. But yeah, very, very unique and interesting build. So this is the Catalyst 2.0. They have a custom image that's, I don't know if it's pre-flashed on this because there is an SD card in here somewhere. But yeah, they've got like a RGB NeoPixel port on it. Got some switches on here. Reset power, mask ROM and recovery mode. So I'm gonna have to read up a lot on this board, but very, very interesting. They still don't include a heatsink for the drivers, frowny face. I don't see them, so that's a good point. I do have a bunch of spare ones that I can put on there. Actually ones from them, from my 2209s that I didn't end up using. This is the Toolhead board. With, instead of using a Molex cable, they've gone with this custom cable, which is an interesting, you know, choice. If you're doing something DIY, I think that Molex connector made sense. But if you're going bespoke and are going to make something, a lot of people have problems with the Molex cables, with the strain relief and the individual pins coming loose, and then you'll lose connection to your thermistor or lose connection to your hot end temporarily, and it'll kind of trigger thermal runaway. And I think that might have been a problem with some of their previous versions, but going with the completely bespoke toolhead board, kind of like Pico-Bilical, but with this connector is a very interesting move. Let's see what you guys are saying. Gemini is Mello's board and they're solid. 3Sins Wi-Fi is bad right now. Oh, did your message get sent 3 times? What did Feather say? That's cool. Seems like it'll solve the issues that you had with connection. Yeah, I mean, I love the V0 umbilical. I love the Pico-Bilical, but I will say it seems like it's a pretty common issue for people to have to, like every single time I open my 2 V0s that have Molex connectors, I kind of just wiggle them down and press them in just to kind of make sure they're like set and seated pretty reasonably. So we'll see if this ends up working pretty well. It's got strain relief kind of built in. That is a 3D printed part, if you guys can see there for their strain relief. I don't know, it's interesting. Obviously, this is not a Voron spec type thing, and I think that's maybe some of the issue that some of the Vorons guys have, is that they're going so far out of the box that it's going to be hard for people on the Voron forums or Discord to provide troubleshooting for this. But it's cool, you know, it's different. Voron came out of, what if we didn't have to worry about being mass manufactured and didn't have to worry about that cost and stuff like that? And then Fysetc has kind of come in and flipped that on the sides and started to mass manufacture special parts for it, which, you know, LDO has done too with the Pico-Bilical and some of their other stuff, the polyimide bed. But yeah, this is interesting stuff. We'll see how well it performs in the end. But yeah, that's one of the things that, you know, people were having trouble with, that Fetter gave feedback on, was their disconnects and having issues with the connection and the strain relief, and they seem to have addressed that in further revisions. So, yeah. So hopefully that answers your question about the board, Tim. Very, very unique solution. Some would say a little anti-Voron in that it's not an off-the-shelf part. But if they're producing a lot of these and selling a lot of these, then going bespoke and custom might make sense. We already got the chain looked at. Let's look at the Hotend. So you've got a CRC or ceramic heater core, CHC. I forget the name of this. I know Triangle Labs sells one very, very similar to it, but it's got a kind of V6 style cooling shroud or heat sink. Then it's got actual screws in there that connect it. So presumably you can do one-hand nozzle removal on this. Man, that nozzle is absolutely tiny. Not sure if you guys can see. PZ-V6. Best bang for your buck right now. I think Formbot has actually started to include a Hotend very similar to this. Of course, the LDO kit included a Voron V0, which is a pretty high-end kind of value add. You know, a Voron V0 with 2 nozzles costs like $120. So that's one of the things that is a price premium in their kit that's going to cost more. I don't know how much this costs. I don't know, it's like a $60. I don't know what the max volumetric flow is on this, but it's pretty cool. Let me zoom in this camera and give you guys a better view. Not sure if it'll focus that close. The sock off. But it kind of looks like the... Wait, is that a ceramic heater core? No, that's just a regular block, I think. Kind of looks like it's taking some design cues from the Bamboo Lab style Hotend with the very long melt zone. You can see the screws there, which screw into the heat sink, so you can do one-handed nozzle removal and don't have to like hold on to the block. If anybody remembers my Formbot build, I actually broke the ceramic heater core on it. So, oh, there's a flat ceramic bit to it. See what Bill said. Voron is open source. It's perfectly okay for companies to use Voron designs with attribution. Yep, that is true. It's a plate style like bamboo. Very, very fragile. So I guess the kind of 2 screws to make sure you can do one-hand nozzle change is pretty crucial. But I mean, I actually have started using different size nozzles on my LDO kit. The V0 has been really handy for that since I started doing some kind of larger pieces that are kind of tools and don't need to be pretty. I've actually actually ordered an Obsidian high flow and in 0.4 and 0.6, and I swapped them in and have been using it. Before that, honestly, I printed 0.4 for like everything since like 2015. To be perfectly honest, I tried putting in a 0.6, 0.8, kind of didn't like the settings. I wasn't printing anything that kind of, you know, was functional and didn't need to look pretty. So I didn't swap my nozzles out all that often. But yeah, since having the Voron V0, I have done it, you know, a little bit. So yeah, so that's another unique piece. You can of course hard mount it, but they also include a kind of collet style that you can put on top of it, like the Fetus and Dragon type Hotends. Go back to the overhead. V0 Display. They also have their own custom V0 display. LOS Inc. said, I like my TZ-V6, heats up super fast and has decent flow rates. Okay, can you quote what those would be? Are they like plus 25 millimeters cubed per second or whatever that is? So this is a V0 display. It's called Simple V0 Display. It's their own custom design, and it uses a different connector. So instead of being USB, like the V0 display that Timit designed, it uses, what would you call this? type of connector. It's not Molex, right? It's kind of what those typical serial old school displays use. So that's another thing that's slightly different than spec. So I guess that would save you a USB port, because I think the typical V0 display has to take up a USB port and has a dedicated MCU in it, and I'm not seeing one on this. It's a very simple design. It's got the rotary encoder, a button, the LED, the OLED screen, and it looks like this whole PCB is just a little bit of a daughter board that breaks everything out and it goes back to the main board. So another thing that's different than a typical V0. Here's the connector for it. This desiccant? Yeah, it's that powder desiccant. Who was it? CNC Kitchen, who just did a video on this clay style. Oh no, it's heat conduction. Is this thermal paste? Does this come? Maybe this fell out of the Hotend, and I didn't notice it. VHP tape looks like it's official 3M style stuff. I've not run out of VHP tape on any of the other two builds I've used so far, so I'm just stocking up on this stuff. Have plenty of it. Wi-Fi module, I believe, 802.11n. So it's just a little USB, kind of like you would get for, I don't know, like an HTPC or something like that you wanted to stick Wi-Fi in that didn't have it on the board. So that's their Wi-Fi solution instead of building it directly into the board. It takes up a USB port, so it's kind of tit for tat. You gain one by not having the display take up one, but you lose one by having the V0. I'm sorry, the Wi-Fi. There are some heat sinks. I don't know. There's only two in here. Nope, there's three. So Molex is a brand name. They have a gazillion different types of connectors. True. But it's kind of turned into one of those Kleenex tissue type things, I feel like. That any kind of positive, there's like JST, everybody calls any type of imitation Japanese solderless terminal a JST, but that's not, you know, that's an actual brand, right? Am I mistaken with that? As JST is, we were on the same page there, but we've got three heat sinks. These are actually pretty nice. They're nicer than the ones that came in my 2209 Fysetc kit that I got like 5 years ago. So they probably gotten better with the design there. I've just got parts strewn across the table. Fans, we've got our, what are these, 3010s blowers. They are not Fysetc branded. They're Kaizi fan. They're 3-wire fans, which is interesting. I don't know if the tachometer or PWM is actually used, but Fetter, do you recall? I recall you, or was that on the Trident kit where you didn't like the fans that were provided? On my Formbot kit, I swapped out the stock fans and used GDS time fans, and they've been performing well. So I'll go with these in the beginning, see how well they work. It's nice that they're pre-cut. They are labeled, so they say fan 0 and fan 0. So these are obviously the part cooling fans. And then we have two of these 3010 again, 24 volt for the extruder, and for the fan 1 and fan 2, presumably those all align with everything in their printed guide. Fan 0, fan 0, fan 1, fan 2. So this is the cooling fan for the back of the chamber. Was the Trident. I used the Fysetc ones in the V0, so I guess they've been performing pretty well. Those fans are really bad. Also, there's a bug in the board. If you connect the yellow wire, there's some current draw and the board's overheat. Good to know that. If anybody has any, particularly big tips for this kit, please feel free to leave them in the comments, that they're a little bit more here for prosperity, so that anybody who comes across the stream might be able to look them up without having to look through the live stream. Yeah, so we've got our two, are they 3010s, 4010s? I forget the dimensions. Words are hard. Hardware. Bags and bags and bags of hardware. I always utilize, or have for the past two builds, the Modbot V0 hardware sorter. So I'll reprint any labels necessary, take any of these and put them in here. I just like being able to pull this out, dip into it, and pull out hardware, and not have to search through and find a particular set of bags. And yeah, I just find that this works a little bit nicer. The kit definitely has a bunch of changes all over. Nice to see them working on it. That is good. You don't want to see a company just release a kit and not make improvements over time, especially if people are calling out things that can be improved. I'm not going to go through all the hardware. I believe they state it's stainless steel. Kind of looks like black oxide, but honestly, the finish on different screws looks a little bit different. Got M2.5, we've got M2.5 hex nuts. All the hardware that you need for a V0 build. Too much to go over. Lots of little knickknacks in here. Another unique piece, they have this, it's kind of like, what do they call it? Like a Sherpa extruder gear. So it's fully metal, which is pretty unique. And I just realized I haven't been showing any of this stuff well on this side cam. So I zoomed in too much. But it's a helical gear, so these aren't straight cut gears, gear teeth on there. So that will sync up with their motor. It's unique. Better, you use this in a kit now. Would you use this? No, you didn't use this on your Micron. Would you, if you could get 5 of these for free, Better, would you use these all in your Micron? Given your experience with the Fysetc V0? Basically, you don't have to use a grub screw to connect this to the shaft. It's, I guess, pressed on there or just completely CNC'd out. I'm not sure how they construct this, but it should offer better concentricity and less run out when the gear is spinning, so you get more consistent extrusion. If you think about when you screw in a grub gear, it's gonna move offset a tiny bit, so as it's rotating, it's gonna kind of have a little bit of run out, so it's gonna be low like a cam gear, and that's gonna cause a little bit of inconsistent extrusion. Who is it? Mirage C has a very good video on the Bondtech Ridka gear, and he explains it pretty well. But this is along the same lines, plus this is all metal. That's ideally more precise, but I'm not sure about that. Dragon Burner and Sherpa Mini combo works well. I use on my Fysetc and bought another one for your FormBot V0. Love it. Way better than those BMG clones. I can imagine that being the case. So some pretty high praise from folks in the chat for this little gear. They do sell this individually if it's something you want to look into for upgrading your existing Dragon Burner or any of the extruders that utilize kind of BMG internal type stuff. Nice all metal thumb screw in here. They've got the similarly geared or tooth gear for the other side of the dual extrusion drive. Very, very unique. It looks like a lot of the more newer kind of extruders are going with planetary gears. So it'll be interesting to see if Voron or anybody comes out with, I guess you can attach any of those to a Dragon Burner if you want to upgrade to Dragon Burner. But yeah, if you want to stick with an afterburner, or excuse me, a mini stealth burner, then you can use this. And they do sell these individually. This camera on my side is having a hard time focusing. Lots and lots of more stuff. We got our springs, magnets, our feet for the, they're like little rubber feet. Nothing special there. All of our flange bearings, what are these called? FRS something or another. Somebody in the chat will know the actual name for these, but yeah, I presume these are Fysetc branded. I think that you can buy these individually if you're interested. I don't know how they compare to your typical brands, the ones that LDL provide, or anything like Honey Badgers or the Berserkers or Westerly's brand and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. Spare connectors. I'm not sure if all of the kit is kind of pre-wired and pre-crimped, but they do have some spare connectors in here with extra crimps. I use IDGA on your stealth runner. Yeah, so on my LDO V0, I accidentally screwed in from the back into the motor plate too far with too long of a screw, and it grinded on that white gear that comes in it. And LDO does provide real Bondtech BMD internals, which is pretty unique. So I kind of messed up that gear and I needed to replace it, so I bought a integrated drive gear for mine as well. Then they've got these PCB style nut bars. So LDO includes all metal ones in their kits. Formbot doesn't include anything. There is a printable file that you can print that will hold a bunch of hex nuts in place, so you can slide that whole thing in, kind of like a no-drop setup. And it just makes it so that these stay in place and you can screw into mounty rails pretty easily. But this is an interesting setup. They're kind of like pressed in like inserts, heat set inserts. I don't know. But this is the PCB material, and they've got these pressed in. So it's made to just kind of make screwing down the rails a little bit easier. They will slide, which is kind of, I guess you're going to be setting them down when you're applying them, but they're kind of like no drop nuts, but ready-made. So I know some people have worried about them possibly the PCB material breaking or something like that, but really once you tighten them down, as long as the threading works, it should just be pulling up like a regular nut would, I would think. So yeah, I know Steve commented on these when he was building his, so I'm gonna have to hop back and look at his stream to see what he thought of those. Spare linear rail bearing. I'm not sure if that'll focus well. But it's just a bag full of extra ball bearings. So I guess if you lose a couple while you are working on your linear rails, there's some in here. Presumably these are the same spec. Since there's only one packet, I'm assuming all of those linear rails are the same preload. I was trying to explain what preload is. Preload is basically, if you have a low preload, you're gonna have a little bit of play and wobble in the carriage. It's gonna be able to move side to side and deflect a little bit, and that's very bad for the toolhead axis, for the X-axis. So in a V0, it calls for a higher spec preload so that you have less deflections, because you don't want the toolhead deflecting while it's putting down plastic. The other axes all have dual rails, so typically they don't need a higher preload, but it seems like Fysetc has just gone with a higher preload on all axes, because I didn't see anything marked as being particularly called out for the X-axis. And then these are little carriage holders, so that you can, if you're going to clean or grease your carriages off the rails, kind of like Steve likes to do, you can put these up against the rails, slide the carriage off, and slide it off and on again. Don't knock it. I know you've done Formbot and LDO kits before. Is this your first Fysetc? Yes, this is my first Fysetc Voron kit. I bought some of their other kind of, generic rep wrap type stuff in the past, but preload on the Fysetc rail is, are you feeling lucky? Okay. Smiley face. Would you care to elaborate a little bit on that, Rafa? We've got our AC inlet pre-wired. I believe yellow on this is going to be earth ground. Is blue going to be neutral and red live? But it's already pre-wired. Hopefully it's wired such that the light only comes on when it's receiving power. There's a fuse in there, so if the fuse goes out, you can replace it. These are another unique piece. So they have some special STLs for their kit that you need to go to their GitHub and get. I'm going to reprint this and do mesh skirts eventually, probably with the pop green in the background. But these are kind of like keystone breakout little ports so that you can hardwire your printer if you want to. So there's an Ethernet, and then you can also break out a USB. So if you want to hook up something like a Nomi, or I've actually been looking into using a DSLR to take time lapses on Clipper. There's a Linux library that you can hook up and use shell commands to send commands to the camera. So being able to plug my camera straight into my board would be beneficial. There's a lot of mods that you can do this without these connectors, but it's a nice little tiny value add that if you want to have that functionality, it's nice to have. I've seen people build their printers not include these whatsoever. If you don't want to wire it, you're only going to wire or go through Wi-Fi. But being able to hardwire your printer, a lot of people when they're setting up their Clipper printers for the first time, they can't find them on their Wi-Fi. The way you flash your Clipper image, you typically set up your Wi-Fi, and then sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. You can't find the IP. Some people aren't able to go to just like clipper.local and find it very easily. But if you plug it in hardwired from the very start, then you can get the IP address, log in, set up the Wi-Fi, and then go about it that way. So being able to hardwire your Pi is always a good option, especially when you're doing your initial setup. See what Rafa said. Rails, preloads, and theory are all the same, but kind of inconsistent. You may have got lucky with a good preload. I tested all my rails and selected the best for X. That makes sense. If they're all the same, you want to get the one that has the best feeling and the least deflection for your X. The way my understanding what preload for these types of linear rails is it's literally they're making the size of the balls that fit into the channels bigger or smaller. So a smaller preload, there's a little bit of play between the balls, ball bearings in the channel for the rails. In a larger preload, they're literally almost making the balls too large for the channels so that there's less deflection. But if you have multiple rails in a system and they have a very high preload, then your parallelism has to be really on point. If one is slightly out of skew, it can actually cause like racking and stuff. So, BB's 3D, another V0. Nice to see you in here. If in doubt, using meter to test which pins are hot, neutral, and PE. Sometimes refer to what different people refer to as ground. There's like logical ground. There's the earth ground, and sometimes people use them interchangeably. I highly doubt they use high precision ball bearings. The preload is definitely a game of luck. And then folks saying hi to each other. I've got a power cable, 3-prong US. I presume that if you're, they're shipping to different regions, that they will have the appropriate power cable for your build, or your power grid, rather. Side cutters and tools. So they give you a couple hex keys. I'll throw this into my little bin with a whole bunch of extra hex keys. I've got a bag of tools I take with me when I'm helping other people with 3D printers and stuff, and I've just got a whole bunch of extra hex keys that I usually end up leaving at friends' houses because they don't have them. And then, not the typically Creality style side cutter, which is interesting. So instead of that light blue, we've got these. They feel decent enough. Playfo, Play FQ. Is that a Q or an O? I can't really tell. But slightly different. But nice to include that. We've got some blue PTFE and some white ones. So there should be two different style inner diameters of the PTFE tubing. One is for the reverse Bowden, and one is for actually going inside of the mini stealth burner. You want the thinner diameter going inside of the toolhead, and the wider diameter, inner diameter, for the reverse Bowden, so it's a little less restrictive. So I presume the blue is the 2mm inner diameter. That looks thinner. Not sure if you can see there. And the white is the 3mm inner diameter. Yeah. So this is for the reverse Bowden going back through the foot, and this is for going inside the toolhead, and they give you a whole lot. That's way more than you would ever need. You could do like 16 hot ends off of this, because you only need like this much for a mini stealth burner. But you don't want to use this for your reverse Bowden, because it can be a little bit too restrictive and actually kind of change your extrusion multiplier, or not your extrusion multiplier, but your rotation distance. They give you an Ethernet cable, 1 meter Ethernet cable. Hardwire your printers if you're able to. I have a mesh router that I can kind of pick up and bring over to the table, and then hardwire a Pi into it. So anytime I do first time setup for a Pi for any projects, I usually hardwire it, configure the Wi-Fi that way, and then I don't have to worry about not being able to find it on the Wi-Fi. We are down to some of the last things. We've got a, what is this, A to A. So this will plug into the back of your printer, and the other side will go to something else, presumably, or maybe this is used for inside of the build, but it's a single board computer combined with a MOBA, so you don't need a USB cable for anything else. It also had some, what are these called? They're like low profile for the top of the tool head. Oh, the USB Rafa mentioned is for reflashing the board if you need it. Good to know. There's a specific name for these low profile Bowden couplers, and I forget what it's called, but Voron uses them for a lot of this stuff. So that's for toolhead, I guess? No, it's for the filament runout sensor in the foot, isn't it? The mini stealth burner doesn't have one of these on the top. It just kind of flops out. We have a 16 GB SD card, not really branded, but that's okay. If you really want to use a nicer, higher quality SD card because you've had issues, then you can do that. And we're getting down to the last couple things. We have a couple of LED PCBs. I guess this is for the tool head. They also have a specific heat shroud, or mini stealth burner shroud. So we've got 4 wire for these. You need to know power pins. That connector is an IEC C16. Bill Brothers has all the answers. But I think if I can find my mini stealth burner shroud, you can see that it is very different than a typical shroud, in that it has slots for their kit especially. Can you guys see that? So presumably these will somehow slot into here, and then that's how you will light up your prints. So you don't use a typical sequin LED or what typical stealth burner shrouds use. This is the actual special one, and I did a color one. I'm not super happy with how that turned out. I might reprint it. There's a little bit of funkiness down there. but I don't have a multicolor printer, so I just have to use like manual color changes. But yeah, it's kind of nice that they include LEDs. These are probably super cheap for them to manufacture in the thousands, and they can just throw them to their kit as a little value add. Motors. We've got some sheathing. Looks like the typical slotted sleeving that most kits come with. I'm wondering what this is for, because I guess if you don't want that white cable from the toolhead, you can do it in this, or maybe it's for, yeah, I'm not really sure what you would need this for. Motors, AB motors, should be Fysetc branded. Come out, come out. Really jammed in there. So Fysetc makes their own motors. These are 1.8 degree. From what I recall in Fetter's build, they perform pretty well. I've used a couple of their motors in a couple DIY projects, and have no complaints so far. Well, not all the answers, just some of it. A good amount. I appreciate you in streams. But you can see how short these motor leads are, because they sit, you know, in the top and the back of the printer, and then because they have their custom designed board, you only have to run them straight over. So you don't have, you know, in both the LDO kit and the Formbot kit, it had these super long motors because they're just kind of a more generic motor leads, and you had to find a place to stuff it, or you could kind of cut them and reprint them if you want. But that's an interesting thing about Fysetc designing their own board and putting the AB steppers right up near where the motors are. You just kind of plug them in. So pretty unique and an interesting decision. What do you guys think about the idea of custom designing a board for a specific printer like this? Like, instead of using a kind of generic 5-stepper motor board, you know, designing one custom. Obviously they have the compute module built in, so you don't have an extra single board computer, kind of like a BTT Manta, but you know, having a custom layout. Have I started knolling as I unbox? No, I have a giant mess on my desk, and it's already starting to freak me out. I don't want you guys to be able to see it. We have our extruder motor, little pancake guy, hard to get out. Fysetc branded again. I forget how many teeth these have. Nice and short, labeled E, so you can plug it in pretty easily. Nothing special to note there. And then our Z motor. Oh, we've got another little bit of the sleeving. We have 2 bits, and again, I'm not sure what they're for. And then our Z motor. So I can't recall if the height of this Z motor is one of the ones that requires the V0.2r1 skirts, which are taller than the typical ones. I know the Formbot motor was, but it's one of the reasons they started making these skirts a little bit taller for the V0.2r1, because some of the Z motors were such that they were so tall that they were causing the bottom deck to kind of protrude a little bit. One is for the tool head, the other is for the bed wire. Okay, if you want to hide it. Makes sense. If you really don't like the kind of ketchup and mustard kind of cables everywhere, which I don't, so that's good. Yeah, I don't know if this is, what do they call it? Teflon? Teflon lead screws are typically black, aren't they? But yeah, pretty standard fare. That is kind of it. Like I said, I don't think it's necessary to go through all of the extrusions. There's blind holes in some, there's not in others. It looks like all of them are tapped on both ends. They do have post cutting and tapping anodization, or whatever coating this is. I think it's coating. If you have the manufacturing power, it makes your kit more desirable, in my opinion. One-stop shop for everything you need, and you know it will work all together perfectly in theory. true. It's an interesting thing. Like I said, the Voron kind of ethos is to use off-the-shelf part for their spec build. But as we see, if you go on any of the Voron, you know, like build sharing sites, very few people are building a spec Voron. You know, part of the idea is you build your Voron. So kit manufacturers trying to stand out and differentiate from each other are going to start doing their own thing, doing their own unique things. And Fysetc has some pretty interesting, unique differentiators in their kit, I have to say. We do have some cable management zip ties. There's no cable tracks because when you have a single board computer attached to your motherboard, your wiring is way, way easier. That'll be an interesting thing to differentiate and note between this kit and the other kits is the wiring should be a whole lot more simple, I would think. I don't generally do kits, but when I do, I expect them to add value. Yeah. One point I tried to make in my LDO build and a little bit in the FormBot build is like different people have different preferences for you know, what they want, and I can see that somebody might not want the LDO kit because there's so many good value adds in there, the Pico Billicles, the Voron Revo, the Polymide Bed. But if you don't want to use those in your build, do you want to pay the price premium for something that you're then not going to use? So it's interesting. You have to kind of evaluate each kit, decide what you want. And that's why I don't like telling people this is the kit that you need to have, because I think there's too many factors for me to like absolutely 100% say something like that. There's tons of custom boards, for example, stealth burners, all the custom boards. You don't need them, but they make life way easier. Yeah. So that's it for everything in the Fysetc kit. As we noted in the top of the stream, they've made revisions to their kit. They do have some custom STLs that you have to print out. They've got this little, the back of, they've got a cover. So this is different than Fedor's build, I know, which he did a customized version of the back of the Toolhead board cover because it was kind of running into the back of the AB motor mounts. So they definitely have made revisions to their kits and the printed parts. I'm trying to think of anything else I noted that was like super different. I've still got parts left over from where I printed some of the different things for the other kits in different colors, so I can kind of combine them for different color combinations, assuming they are compatible with this kit. Did anybody see parts for the R1 foot? I might have missed them. It might have been in a bag that I didn't really delve into, but there should be a micro switch and a tiny ball bearing that is for the foot switch. So I'll have to dig through all the parts again to make sure that that's in there because it's labeled as an R1 kit, so it should have it. Yeah, I made a bunch of adapters and covers and mounts for the first version. Looks like they've solved all of those. That's good to see too. I mean, it should go without saying, but companies should be willing to receive feedback and realize that, you know, nobody's able to make things perfect in the first go and make revisions. I will say I haven't seen where their revisions are tracked. Another really cool thing about LDO, I think, is that they track their revisions really, really well. You can go on the LDO documentation site, you can look up like your serial number and see which revision, and they have a specific BOM for each one of those revisions. So like they know exactly what came in your kit. If you buy this kit and I buy this kit a month apart from FormBot and Fysetc, I'm not sure we can 100% know that we are going to have the same parts in it. It's hard. It's a hard logistics problem to solve when you're constantly trying to source parts, create them on your own, make revisions and update and make the printer kits better. It's hard to know, like, are you going to dig into every single box and put in the micro switch for the R1? Like when that happens, I think about how tough it is to source a LD, like a Voron kit yourself, and then think about doing that at scale. When you scale things out, it presents a whole bunch of different problems that I think different manufacturers are having to deal with in different ways. But yeah, that's it for the unboxing of this kit. I've got a lot of knolling to do. That's where I've got a table over here off to the side, and I'll set up all the parts and kind of set them up and square them up so that I can see them. I'll put some of them into these parts organizers so that I can get at them easier. I'll take all the hardware and organize it into the Modbot thing so that I can just pull them out and get all the screws I need as needed. That's just kind of how I like to build stuff. But yeah, Robert Rittenhouse, exciting. Thanks for hopping in the stream. Any other questions or comments about the kit? As Feder noted, it looks like that they have improved it and made changes since he built it. And I love to see that. I'll be providing feedback for anything I see that might need to, you know, could be improved. Even the LDO kit, as great as that kit was, I tried to provide some feedback to say, hey, here's what I would like to see that I think it would make the kit better for me and or a better building experience for everybody in general. I like to try to give some feedback, even if a product is really, really good. Was this kit sponsored? That's a good point. I forgot to call that out. Yes, Fysetc did provide this kit for the purpose of making content around it. They're pretty hands-off once they provided the kit, which was actually a little while ago. They haven't specified what videos I need to make, and they won't be seeing anything beforehand. So thank you to Fysetc for sending the kit out. I too have horizontal surface disease. Yeah. I don't know, it's calming for me. Even when I build Lego, I null everything out. So instead of just keeping the parts in the bag, I will take all the light pieces, put them in a group, align them in a way so that I can see them, I can count them easily. It's kind of like therapeutic. I don't know if that's the right term. It just helps me to be able to kind of know where everything is. I know every part of the printer after doing that, if that makes sense. I've literally touched and moved every single piece of the printer. Right now it's in a giant mess on this table and it's causing me a lot of anxiety. Always be knowing, exactly. A-B-K. A always B-B-K Nolan. I threw that clip. I forget what it's called. It's a movie about like a bunch of guys who sell like knives or something like that. And they had this thing that was like always be closing, but Tom Sachs and Adam Savage, who I'm a big fan of. You can see all the artwork remind me. They talk about Nolan a lot. Lean Six Sigma, oh boy. That provides some flashbacks. So I worked as a process engineering assistant as an intern, and we had to do a bunch of Lean Six Sigma stuff. And I literally had to carry a cube motor around the workspace and count the number of steps between different stations. And we tried to find the leanest pathing for, you know, a particular part. So, you know, it's funny to me because these cube motors would fly and they get wound in Panama City. No, I think it was like Tijuana or somewhere in Mexico. And then they get something else done in the Philippines, and they get something else done in like PCBs here. And then once we got them in for final like assembly, I had to count the steps between. It's so crazy. Yeah, I had to do a lot of AutoCAD and trying to figure out the best layout for several production floors to figure out, you know, what was the optimal flow. And a lot of the times, I think for those particular products and the number of assemblies and sub-assemblies and parts they had, I don't think it was all that worth it. Literally, like, you could turn around and most of the parts were at arm's reach, but it was just something where, you know, the head of that department wanted everything like as lean as possible. So yeah, a little bit about, you know, my background. I'm a computer engineer, but in college, I just had to find some type of internship. So there's a motors component group near me, and I did a little bit of stuff for them. So learned AutoCAD. I had to figure out a lot of OSHA stuff that was way above my head. Where you place this machine, how much space it needs around it in order to make sure somebody's arm doesn't get chopped off. It's where I learned about preload on linear bearings. Some of the industrial, like linear bearings, they have settable preloads. So you can actually set the preload on them. And you don't want to overload the preload, because especially if you have two moving in parallel, if they're not perfectly parallel and they're over preloaded, then they'll start to seize up. So there was like rules written on a lot of the machines about like the preload settings that you wanted to use. But that was another life. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. But yeah, I guess we can start to wrap this up. If nobody has any questions, if you do have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments of this stream, and then I will be announcing my live streams and all the channels. However you might have seen this live stream pop up in your feed, I will be announcing it. The plan is to build it on stream. I won't be able to go as fast as Steve builds, but he is also building one of these kits with his friends on his channel, so definitely check them out. They're way further ahead, so if you want to get an idea of what this looks like a little bit down the road when it's not just a pile of parts, you can go tune in over there. Feder 3D Print SOS has a whole series where he built this previous revision of this, so if you want a little bit of context, he also has a full review of that, so you can see what that printer was before and what it has in it now and how they've improved and changed the kits. I gotta say, I love that they have a printed wiring guide. I know wiring is a tough part of a build. It's kind of one of the last things you do, and it's where a lot of people have issues. So just having this, I really, really like. Hopefully it's, you know, up to date and, you know, really about what this spec is, but yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to close this stream off. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. I think this is the highest viewership I've ever had on any stream. So really, really excited to have some new people. Thanks for everybody who sent super chats and or memberships. I know Bill bought some memberships for people, so thank you. Hopefully I'll be able to provide some membership benefits that you guys will be interested in, possibly some exclusive streams, early access to videos. I did release the LDO V0 review kit 2 days early for members, so keep that in mind if that's something you're interested in. 50 plus years of software for me, had to learn lots of mechanical stuff on the way. Yeah, it's interesting how if you work tangentially, I can't say that word, to any other kind of engineering field, you end up getting a lot of kind of cross-pollination, and it's cool. It's impacted my interest in a lot of building and making. Being a software engineer, since so much stuff is digital and a lot of the stuff I produce is non-tangible, I've found 3D printing and making stuff and carpentry being a really big kind of release for being able to make tangible stuff that I can actually hold and give to people, as opposed to something you just release out into the ether and you get stats and analytics back about how many people are using stuff and how many errors you're getting. So I don't know, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in. If you have any interest or questions about this printer or the other V0s, how this kit differs, please let me know in the comments. Feel free to contact me on Twitter. I'm on the Discord for a lot of the different Voron creators out there. Steve builds, Polly, I can't speak. I need to have a little bit of water. Talking for like 2.5 hours straight is pretty rough. Steve builds, Polymaker, Nero / Canuck creator, Daniel Modbots, Mandic Labs. I'm on all of those Discord, so contact me on there. And yeah, I'd love to see your builds. If anybody's built this kit, has any impressions of it, send me pictures. Send me problems that you had, and yeah, thanks again to everybody for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next stream. Peace. Oh, I guess good deal. My desk is completely covered in stuff. Mute my mic.